Alright, hello everyone. This will be a quick video showing my installation of the Passport 9500 CI system on my '08 C6 convertible Vet. Alright, so we'll start off just kind of going over where I placed everything. Um, the first thing, you really don't have many options as for placement. The rear of the vehicle, you have the rear laser shifter. It mounts to the license plate. Um, Most people do it above the license plate. Some people have done it below, where they run the wire behind the license plate. You don't want to block, for legal reasons, any of the graphics on the plate itself. So you just kind of have to play with it and see what you feel comfortable with and what looks best for you. I flipped my shifter upside down so it would show more of the texts on my plate and also be kind of higher up. There's just enough room for me to get my fingers in there to push the trunk release button that is right above there on the vets. Alright, next up is the front of the vehicle. We have two laser shifters shown on the left and right, and the center is the radar receiver. The placement of the shifters is critical. I called two different install shops and talked to their techs, and based on everything I've read on the internet, you have a 2% deviation of the leveling of these shifters to the ground before you lose up to 70% of their efficiency. So getting them perfectly level to the ground is critical, as well as you want optimum placement on your vehicle. If you have a front license plate, the general knowledge is that you need to place the shifters in between or equidistant from the license plate and your headlight. So the placement will be slightly different if you have a license plate on your vehicle. If you don't have a license plate on the front of your vehicle, then you want them as close to the headlights as possible. So on my vehicle, the shifters are as far out to the right as I can get them. It's also critical to make sure that they are pointing directly ahead of the vehicle. And aligning those up, I'll show you how I did it, but lining those up is kind of difficult. You can't really eyeball it because the front of the vehicle, the bumper, kind of is very angled. It comes to a point. So you can't follow that angle and just eyeball or estimate really getting those shifters pointing straight ahead. As a good tip, if you're going to hire someone else to install this for you, you can find out if they know what they're talking about by quizzing them on how they go about installing these shifters. One of the guys that I called said that he just uses the VHB sticky tape and just sticks the shifters directly up to that underside of the bumper. If he does that, he just failed the test. Because if you just stick them to the underside of the bumper, they're not going to be perfectly level. He needs to use the brackets that allow you to level off the shifter. So you can VHB tape the brackets to the underside of the bumper, and then the brackets allow you to tilt the shifters to get them perfectly level. So if it sounds like that they just kind of half-ass it, or if they just stick them on the bumper and don't really think much of leveling these things or making sure they're pointing directly ahead, that is not a good install guide to go with. For the display screen, I installed it above the rearview mirror. I used Velcro in this picture. If I had it to do over, I might go with something a little less thick, because you can really see the Velcro when you're sitting in the car. But aside from that, I think it's a perfect placement. I tried out visually many different locations in the vehicle. One of the more custom looks is to actually install it on the door to your ashtray in the center console. I'm glad I didn't do that, because upon further thought, and I saw a couple other installs, you really can't see that display screen especially if you have a standard, because your hand and the shifter knob is going to be in the way. So I really think, at least in my opinion, this placement is best. And finally, for the control panel. This is really up to you, up to your personal preference of where your hand will most easily access it. Obviously, if you're left or right-handed, that'll make a big difference. I preferred it here because it was out of the way, yet easily accessible, and it was very easy to run the wire down under that dash panel and then across the center console to where I placed the main brain of this operation. So that was just my personal preference. There was no drilling involved. It's only attached with the adhesive that it comes with on the back of that control panel. Alright, let's begin the actual install. This will go pretty quickly. I don't go into incredible detail, but I think I covered enough for you guys to understand what I did. I start by taking the far right brake light out. It uses a Torx 15 screw, just one screw. You can see where I'm unscrewing it right there. Um, and then once you have the screw taken out, it just takes one finger really to lift up and kind of just wiggle the brake light out. And once you got it all the way out, just let it drop down and hang on the wires. I prefer to use a rag to put in between the hanging brake light and the car just to prevent any kind of scratching, any issues like that. And then once I got the light out, just to make sure I don't lose it, I just kind of screw the screw halfway back into its hole so I always know where it is. And it doesn't get, roll away or anything like that. Okay, next I'll attach the rear laser shifter as shown in this picture. After you're all done, you're going to want to come back here and carefully bend the brackets on either side to where you get this perfectly level as well. Obviously, it's going to face to the rear of the car just by virtue of where it's placed, but you still need to level it, and you do so, and this is the official instructions, by bending those side brackets. If you bend them too much or apply too much pressure, you're going to snap the plastic on the shifter casing though, so do this very carefully. And I did it later at the end of my install. So for right now, I just screwed it on, ran the wire up through the hole where the, let's see, you can see here in this next picture, that hole right there. Next, you reach in, you stick your arm in through the open brake light hole, reach across to the left, grab the wire, and you can pull it back through the inside of the bumper. Next step, I mount the GPS antenna. I don't really have a picture of this because it's kind of hard to show you where I put it. So what I did is I took a picture of my fingers inside the brake light socket up above where I placed it. So basically it's using the VHB tape, the very high bond tape that the kit comes with. I stick the GPS antenna to the underside of the inside of the back bumper, in between, I guess, the top of that brake light socket and the actual top of the back of the bumper. You can see my hand in this picture here kind of reaching in and touching it. The back of my fingernails in this picture is touching the top face of the antenna. Now that those two pieces are installed and the wires have been run, next we need to get the wires inside the car. The easiest way I found to do this, there is a little rubber grommet. If you look inside the brake light socket, a little bit down and a little bit to the left, you'll see this rubber socket in the fiberglass wall of the trunk. Basically, I just with my thumb, I push the rubber grommet to the side, and I feed my two wires from the shifter and the GPS antenna into that, which feeds into the trunk. One note, just to be thorough, some people would say that you shouldn't force the wires in through the edge of the grommet like I did. They say you should cut a small slit in the actual rubber of the grommet itself and run the wires through the slit. And then to make it, finish it off as a full professional job, you come back with a little silicone epoxy and just kind of go around it to make sure it's completely watertight. For my personal install, I didn't see that was necessary in this case.